Good day, everyone, and welcome to our last topic for Introduction to Communication Media. Media literacy is where all of our previous topics eventually boil down into. Now, you guys might have noticed that every time I start a lesson or every time a new concept gets taught, I ask you guys what media do you think applies this certain concept? Now, not only is this just a way for me to get to know you guys, but it's also to test and exercise your ability to analyze the media that you consume because that is a very important detail when it comes to being proficient in communication media, and that is being media literate. And before we proceed, how can we define literacy? What are the characteristics and what are the standards that you uphold in order to consider someone or in order to consider yourself literate? Is the ability to read and write enough? Do you consider someone who is fluent in English literate? Or do you consider other factors? Now, by definition, literacy is the ability to identify, understand, interpret, create, communicate, and compute using printed and written materials associated with varying contexts. In short, it's the ability to understand information and communicate it effectively, and is usually within the common academic and real world information environments. Literacy involves a continuum of learning in enabling individuals to achieve their goals, to develop their knowledge and potential, and to participate fully in their community and wider society. Now, to be literate is not simply to be able to read and write, but in today's definition, it also involves the ability to comprehend, express, and utilize the concepts that you've learned. Just because you know a lot of things, it does not mean anything if you can't use it properly. A concept of literacy is being able to apply certain learnings within a certain context in other real life examples, usually outside of its initial context. In order to properly explain a concept and apply it, you have to actually understand the concept. And if you understand something, then you are literate rather at it. Now, there are multiple types of literacy. There is writing literacy, there is reading literacy, there's also digital literacy, information literacy, social literacy, and so much more. But for today's topic, we'll be focusing on media literacy. So now that we've defined literacy, we have to apply it in media. That is the point of this course. So media literacy is the ability to effectively and efficiently comprehend and use any form of mediated communication. Though this is not simply the consumption, this is also the evaluation and analysis of media content. Media literacy is a skill we take for granted, but like all skills, it can be improved. And if we consider how important the mass media are in creating and maintaining the culture that we are in, it is a skill that must be improved. When you consume content, there are five things that you have to consider. First is the credibility. This is how recent something was published or how updated it was. Next is the relevancy. Is this media in the correct context? Are you the intended audience? And does this media satisfy your objective? So if you are, let's say, if you're lactose intolerant and you're watching a film about ice cream making, you probably shouldn't comment, what about people who can't consume dairy? Or what if I'm allergic to peanut? Why are you putting peanut in the ice cream? Or those types of comments. It just means that you're not the relevant audience. That media is not relevant to you. And if you're media literate, you would know that you are not the person or you are not the audience that this form of media is trying to um, achieve. It would not make sense for you to demand certain adjustments just because you do not fit into their scope. Next, the accuracy. Are the evidences presented in media fair and valid? Are they considered good sources of information? And are they using logical fallacies and biases? So an example of a logical fallacy, let's say a toothpaste commercial. You go on a date, Your partner smells that you have bad breath, so they break up with you. And because they break up with you, you're now sad, you're now depressed, you're doing badly at work. So you get fired. And because you get fired, you don't have any money. So you end up losing your job, your family connections, your friends, and so you become alone. And that advertisement concludes that if you don't brush your teeth, you'll end up alone. That is an example of a logical fallacy. And if you're media literate, you would know that it's a logical fallacy, that it is intended to, let's say, make connections to promote their topic or to promote their product. Next is authority, the source of the media. Is the person creating this media credible to discuss the topic? Are the sources they presented objective? And is it peer reviewed? So if your friend, let's say, if your friend presents you a video of a person talking about, let's say, talking about the importance of art within the current marketing landscape or in the current economic landscape. Tapos, when you look at this person's profile, you can see that they are a Bitcoin enthusiast. They involve themselves in stock and trade of um, non-fungible tokens. They are an artist as a hobbyist artist, and their favorite tool is Midjourney. Do you think they have the authority to discuss the topic they just discussed? At the same time, are they considered objective? Are everything that they're talking about factual? Or is it based off actual sources? Last is the purpose of the media. Is this media persuading me, entertaining me, or informing me? Does it have any commercial intent? Does it want to promote a product or a service? Uh, uh, the worst offender that I can consider are those K-dramas set in modern time, on modern day. They do product placements in a way that they show that their main character is using this product, and they always make sure that the product is up there front and center in the screen. To be media literate is not to say na, oh, this means it's bad. No, it means that you are aware that the purpose of this specific scene is for the um is for the show to promote a certain brand. So at least it's up to you now, and you're aware that you are being the product. Let's remember, audience is the consumer and audience as the product. In that context, you are now the product. The brand is trying to get you, it's trying to buy you. Now it's up to you now at that point on whether or not you'll be sold. Like, okay, I see the purpose of this product, of this service, and I will avail it. Or it's up to you to just criticize it. Like, no, I don't think it's for me. It's not really my style, and let's move on. So parang ganyan lang. Now, how can we have media literacy? I know I've just pointed out 5 things to consider in the previous slide, but there are so many ways for us to have media literacy. There are so many ins and outs and details about it. Now, I'd want you guys to watch this video. It's called, let me just double check the title. It's called The Science of Kindness. It's from the channel Random Acts of Kindness in YouTube. You can watch it if you want, if you like. There is a link here, but given the recorded nature of this video, I would not be able to send you guys a link at least right now immediately. So take the time to watch the video because we do have supporting discussions afterwards. So if you want, you can pause this video and play it once you're done. So once you're done watching the video, let's ask ourselves a few questions just to see if we were actually watching the video, if we were actually consuming the video. First, what did you do while watching the short video clip? Were you focused? Were you, um, let's say, were you dead set and looking, watching, listening that video? Or were you doing something else? Were you listening to something in the background? Were you on your phone? Were you taking notes? Next, What message stuck with you the most? What was your conclusion? What were the learnings you've taken after that video? And lastly, how are you going to use what you got from watching the video? To simply know something doesn't make an impact. Like I've said prior, it's not just simply the understanding, but also the application. So, from the previous video or from the video you just watched, and from the learnings that you have noted, what are you going to do about it? Are you just going to understand and then forget it next week? Or are you going to start applying it or being more self conscious about yourself? Now, that is media literacy in action. Instead of just simply passively absorbing media, you have to cultivate your ability to analyze, understand, and respond thoughtfully to media. Remember, we are not passive consumers. We are active critics. We hold media accountable to whatever it is that they make. So ask yourself, how much influence do you believe that mass media has on you as a consumer? How quickly are you swayed by the contents of mass media? How abruptly do you get distracted when you watch mass media content? And how critical are you of the messages that these mass media content deliver? Here are a few elements of media literacy. The first element is critical thinking skills. You need to have critical thinking skills in order to have media literacy. Because thinking critically about the content we consume is the very essence of it. Why do you watch? Why do we even watch what we watch, read what we read, or listen to what we listen to? There is a reason behind all of the things that we do. Next is understanding the process of mass media communication. Now that we know the different models of communication, we know the steps on how certain mass media are made and distributed. We now understand the process and we can form expectations of how these mass media can serve us. Because we know what happens behind the scenes, we know what to expect, and we can hold them to a certain standard. Next is the awareness of the impact of media. It's related to our critical thinking skills, wherein if we ignore the impact of media in our lives, we run the risk of being caught up and carried along by the changes rather than leading or controlling it. Remember, you have to consider, are you influenced by technology or are you influencing technology? You have to know how much you impact media. So the next element of media literacy are the strategies for analyzing and discussing media messages. When we consume media thoughtfully, we do need a foundation on what to base our thoughts and reflections to. We can't just let's say conclude things out of nowhere. Like we can't just make conclusions and analysis out of thin air. It would really help if we have a format and strategies in order to criticize certain types of media. Now, there are various theories out there that analyzes certain media that opens us to a different way of watching media, but there are also various criticisms. If you would recall your senior high lesson in, I forgot the name of the class, I guess it was an English adjacent lesson. You analyzed different forms of media through various criticisms, such as reader response, historical, and etc. So that is an example of a strategy in order to analyze media, and as well as discussing media. Next element is understanding of media content as a text that provides insight into our culture and our lives. Whatever it is media creates, it's usually a reflection of our culture, our lives, our experiences. Media messages increasingly dominate that form of communication, shaping our understanding of and insight into our culture. Now, this is why stereotypes and racism is a very, let's say, grave offense when it comes to creating media. Because you are putting your own biases and stereotypes out in media for people to think that this is how they actually are, how certain people actually are. It does not promote empathy and compassion. and it stigmatizes other communities within the society. So we have to understand that any form of media provides insight into the culture and lives of people. That's why the quality and story of American media is very different from those made in the Philippines. So the types of media that America was releasing reflects their culture and their lives. In contrast to our experiences in high school, we had uniforms. Our classes started from 7, ended at 5. So those are things that if you'd let someone who is not Filipino watch it, they'd be a bit confused. They'd have to adjust a little bit in order to understand the cultural context of that media. Next element is the ability to enjoy, understand, and appreciate media content. Now, we can't always be critical. We also have to use media to be happy, to find joy in the things we do, and to learn more about the things we like. There's no fun in always being critical. Sometimes we have to enjoy media as it is and not be very nitpicky on the things it's getting wrong. Media literacy doesn't always mean living the life of a grump. Liking nothing in media or always being suspicious of harmful effects and cultural degradation in media can end up making you a bit of a sourpuss. You are denying yourself of maximizing the usage of media. Remember, we can use media to be happy. We can use it as a means to achieve happiness. And if this form of media makes you happy, then allow yourself to consume it. Next element is the development of effective and responsible production skills. This is very relevant, especially for you guys as MMA students. When it comes to media, we are very much in the creation part, and we handle a lot of the subtle communication aspects of media. So, our definition of literacy of any type calls not only for effective and efficient comprehension, but also its usage and creation. So, when you are media literate, not only do you know what are the good and the bad things in the media you consume, but you also know what are the good and the bad things in the media you create. So it makes no sense if you know that this type of context is bad and then you continue to make media with that context. So we have to be responsible in our production skills. And last element is the understanding of the ethical and moral obligations of media practitioners. Remember, we have to hold media practitioners accountable, whether it be other people or yourself. We have to make informed judgments about the performance of media. And we must also be aware of the competing pressures on practitioners as they do their jobs. Now, with all of that, here are a few tips for you to practice your media literacy skills. Now, like any skill, media literacy can only be refined if we keep on doing it, if we keep being aware and apply it in our day to day lives. First and foremost, make an effort to understand content, to pay attention, and to filter out noise. Doom scrolling is a thing where you just continually scroll on your phone without having actual goal, an actual expectation, and you're just allowing media to present things to you without restraint. So you have to make an effort to understand the content you consume. You actually pay attention to the things that you're consuming, and you have to identify which of the media that is in front of you and the media that you're consuming rather is just noise. So if you've seen videos wherein split screen siya, on the left is a TikTok, on the right is like some ASMR sand cutting video or yung mga cooking videos, you have to consider where are you actually focusing on, what is the actual content here, and what are the intentions, the credibility, the reliability, and etc. Next, understand and respect the power of media messages. The reason why we have media literacy in the first place is because we understand the effects media has on us. It's not a big brain move if you just say na media has no effect on you. If you say na, oh, I don't allow myself to be consumed by media. Because you are not maximizing the true power of media. You have to understand and respect the scope and its capabilities. Next, distinguish emotional from reasoned reactions when responding to content and to act accordingly. There is a thing called rage bait, wherein people make content because they know they will get a reaction, specifically emotional reactions. So you have to be very conscious of it. You have to be very critical. Is this media rage bait? Are they trying to get me to interact with them to increase their algorithm? Is this media trying to make me sad so that I will share it with other people for me to develop this sense of empathy or this feeling of vulnerability whenever I see their brand? Next, develop a heightened expectation of media content. Do not allow low production media quality to really make an impact. If you know that this industry can produce high quality content, hold them to that expectation. If a certain media has bad audio, bad graphics, bad content, hold them accountable to that. Stop paying attention to their media. Make a comment if you must. You have to hold them accountable. We should not let low quality types of media perpetrate in this society, especially with um, the decline of media literacy. We have to ensure high quality content. Next, we have to learn the different genre conventions and recognize when they are mixed. Now, certain genres usually take on the form of specific sequences whenever they're presented. For example, a genre convention in horror is the concept of the final girl. A genre convention for rom-coms are, let's say, the second lead man. For action movies, personally, I'm not really into action movies, but let's say a genre convention will be the chase scene. There will always be a chase scene. So, in order to practice media literacy skills, we have to be aware of these conventions. Now, it's not to say that just because certain cliches and structures are present, it means that a certain form of media is bad. If anything, it's just good that they are going into the sequence or the conventions of their genre. They are staying within their expected structure. Now, a benefit from understanding and recognizing these conventions is that you can understand and recognize when they're being mixed together, especially when it's used to, um, let's say, pull the rug under you by giving you a loophole, a cliffhanger. Next, think critically about media messages, no matter how credible the sources. We always have to think that whoever is creating the media has its intention or has their own objectives. Remember ethos, pathos, and logos, with ethos being the appeal to credibility. Some people take advantage of this and claim that their authority, their credibility towards a certain topic, about a certain source, is enough for you to believe them. However, we still have to criticize and hold them accountable to whatever it is that they are saying. That's why, even if I'm an instructor and you guys are the student, I very much welcome proper corrections in its proper time. If you want to correct me na ma'am, according to what I've read, this is actually how this topic goes, or this is what this subject is about. I am all ears. I will listen to you. I will understand. But I will also cross check it with my own information. And it's good. I encourage you guys to think critically. Of course, this does not mean that you will go around and objecting everything that your teacher is saying. You have to balance the fact that um, while you have to be critical about everything that they are saying, that's correct. You also have to respect that they are in that position for a reason. So it's all about balancing. Focus not on the person speaking, but more about the message that they are delivering. Because you can say that a source becomes more credible because you know that they are telling you the truth, or they are telling you rather the correct things. And lastly, learn the internal language of various media and understand its effects no matter how complex. media eventually creates its own language, creates its own functions and way of communicating. So it's really up to us as the consumers to understand how this certain media delivers its message for us to maximize the information that we are getting from them. And that concludes our lesson for media literacy and our entire course for Introduction to Communication Media. I do hope you guys will check this video out as well as check your Blackboard because the M3 summative is hopefully up by the time that this video is uploaded. And so with that, if you guys have any questions or concerns about the topic or anything for COMM101, feel free to leave me a message. And with that, goodbye everyone. Thank you so much for listening and I'll see you when I see you.